Welcome back to DevelopLex. Today we are very excited to have on Lee Greer. As a lot of our guests do, Lee wears a lot of hats, so it would be doing a disservice to just say real estate developer, just say partner in the fastest growing entertainment company in the world?
In the world right now.
It would be doing a disservice to try to introduce you with one job title. So typically we let our guests introduce themselves, but thank you for coming on, Lee. If you could give a little bit of background of why you're sitting here today in Lexington, Kentucky, and how you spend your days, that would be great.
Well, today I'm a president of Greer Companies, and I assume we'll spend a lot of the day talking about what we're doing. How I got here, I'm from Lexington, grew up here, went to Taste Creek High School, and just had an amazing youth in Lexington. Always loved Lexington. Never had a doubt in my mind that I would come back and return. My dream was always to kind of like do something with my father. He and I were just super close. Best of friends in many ways, but I didn't know exactly what or how at the time, but I always knew that was a goal. My path was through UVA, went to University of Virginia, majored in finance, economics, and accounting, and MIS, a couple minors, but management information systems. 'Cause I was really into computers too, computer programming. I didn't like a lot of it, but I love making the games, creating the games. So that was fun. But I had a business mind. I participated in a lot of extracurricular projects with real estate with the professors there. So real estate was really important to me throughout that, and I kind of gained that from my father. But I had a goal of, ever since the movie Wall Street came out and reading Liar's Poker in the 80s, I had a dream of working on Wall Street. And those jobs at UVA were coveted. They were hard to get. So you had to work it. You had to show up to the cocktail parties as a first year and get to know the recruiters and stay in touch with them. Luckily, I got the internship my third year from Merrill Lynch to do investment banking, and I had probably one of the most fun summers you can have. I got a little work done too, and they offered me a full-time job out of UVA my fourth year. So great experience fourth year. I was a Kappa Sig, had a lot of fun. Worked hard, played hard, got that full-time offer on Wall Street, and went up there for 2 years.
Awesome. And so, and a little bit of background, why UVA? What was the interest in UVA?
So UVA, interesting story. I guess I've always been this short or tall, but I've been since about 6th or 7th grade. I've been the same height, and in sports, it was a blessing when you're 7th grade. So
yeah.
I was putting up some pretty big numbers in basketball, 7th, 8th grade, and got letters and recruited from UVA. So that was how I first got interested in UVA. And then my sisters ended up going there. The letters stopped coming around sophomore year for basketball, certainly. And by that time, I just kind of visited often. And man, if you've been on that campus and been around UVA and the type of students that go there, it was just a huge draw. Yeah. And I also learned that following my sisters in high school wasn't a bad thing either, because all the teachers loved them. It made my path a lot easier. There's probably half the tests I didn't have to take because of Kelly and Chris. I don't think I've ever told them that. So thank you, Kelly, thank you, Chris. I probably had in my mind that college was going to be the same way. It wasn't. They didn't really care, but I always loved my sisters and respected them, and part of it was probably that.
SVN Stone Commercial Real Estate is a full-service commercial real estate firm located in Lexington, Kentucky. Affiliated with the SVN International Network, SVN has over 200 offices across the globe. The SVN Stone team consists of experienced commercial real estate advisors in the heart of the Bluegrass. SVN helps their clients with commercial property sales, leasing, investments, and property management. Let SVN help you with your commercial real estate needs. Check us out at svnstone.com. That's awesome.
So your time up in New York, what kind of work did you do there that now translates into what you do now, and what's your day-to-day look like?
It's financial boot camp. One thing about Wall Street and investment banking, it's business school wrapped into the first few months. So they'll put you through rigorous training, and financial modeling is probably the one thing, getting your brain working around returns and deals and thinking of leverage, how to finance large transactions, how to make it work. But certainly the keyboard. I mean, you know, I haven't used a mouse since I was in college. They teach you to use your hands and move fast. So modeling, thinking ahead, and the excitement of the big deals. You know, one thing I always miss about Wall Street was just your deal you're working on was on the front page. And today they're smaller and but they're your own. So there's some reward in that. But just you have to be on your toes. Working hard, work ethic, and like there's no minutes off up there, and just sense of urgency, and getting deals across the goal line. Like that's the big thing. As you all know, and you've probably learned, it's not so hard to go 99 yards to the one, but man, it is dang near impossible to get a big deal over the goal line and a sale of a large company, and just there's a lot of skills that go into that. And I learned a lot of that, seeing the maneuvering at the end, the posturing, the bartering, the bluffing, and that was I haven't thought about it, but that's a great takeaway.
So you, I mean, obviously had like the skills of all of the things that you learned in college and in your first, short part of your stint in New York, and then from there you kind of learned to be a deal maker. Yeah. It sounds like.
Yeah, I had a great boss. He was a UVA grad too, and he and I are to this day very, very close. But he threw me in the fire in New York. I was an intern when he led me through a financing of Norfolk Southern, and we got on the phone and raised over $500 million in 3 hours with me. And then we turned around and did it again for Norfolk Southern at the end of the summer, and he said, "You're on your own. I got a lunch appointment." So, you talking about the sweat dripping off your forehead, and didn't want to let him down, and raised over $750 million in 3 or 4 hours just on the phone, and intense. And so that was really the first inauguration for me, and trial by fire, and just big deals, and it just got in my blood.
Yeah,
loved it, and loved my time on Wall Street. Worked on the UPS IPO, United Airlines, U.S. Airways merger. They went through 3 or 4 iterations with antitrust before it got through after my time was up. But some big deals that got in your blood, and that carried over to some of the things we do today.
Yeah, it's helpful context. I never knew any of that. I know most of the present day stuff, which I think that we should a decent amount of time.
Yeah, let's not get into me getting stuck in the revolving door in New York my first day, or a lot of the other embarrassing moments up there. There's plenty of non-business moments too that my sisters and family like to harbor on more than the deals.
Yeah, but what I think is cool about what you all do for the Greer Companies, I'm obviously close with Gordy and Bryce, and know a lot of your team and the different ventures that you all are in, is you all are based in Lexington, very much operate out of Lexington, but I would say you're pretty geographically agnostic when it comes to like deal making.
Sure.
Whether that be Bryce, with Activate, leaving and jumping on a flight at 7 a.m. to go and look at a site that you guys have in Dallas for Activate, or any of the concepts that you all have, just being willing to be outside of Lexington, but obviously you continue to invest in the city of Lexington through the route. So maybe if you could give a little bit of a semblance of what you're doing day to day now, that would be awesome.
Sure. It goes back, after I left Merrill, I got into venture capital. So we started a venture capital firm with Stephen Daugherty and Craig Greenberg. Craig's now the mayor of Louisville, and Stephen is head of LSC in soccer, and he's done a lot of great things for Lexington. But it was that VC mindset. I always dreamed of being a venture capitalist. We picked the worst time in history to try to do that for technology. I think Stephen would agree. Tried in nanotechnology and semiconductors back in the tech crash of 2001. But that's when I transferred into working with my father and getting back, and we talked about that too. But what it did was, it's just that like VC mentality of doing a little bit of everything and working on many things at once, and that's kind of where we are today with Activate, and putting on different hats and roles, and traveling. And that VC role, you're always moving around. And that's what we're doing here with Activate. Not just Activate, but Sounds Fun Entertainment is the parent company. Yeah. And we're looking to create our own and invest in other growing entertainment companies that are physically challenging and mentally challenging, and get kids off their phones, and has a really good kind of purpose in that lifestyle, healthy lifestyle for folks. Getting friends and families to kind of come together and solve puzzles like we do in the escape rooms and breakout games, to physical, mental challenges and solving a series of challenges and clues like an Activate.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love the model. But we got Activates right now being developed in 4 or 5 different countries: Germany, Kuala Lumpur, Australia, and all over America. And so we all have to be in different places at the same time. So I'm glad that's the way it is, because that gives me an opportunity to really participate with those guys and doing that. But like last week, we went to Charleston, and I was a game time decision, 30 minutes before the flight.
Yeah.
And we're just moving pieces around.
Yeah. I played golf with Bryce a few weeks ago, and I thought I misheard him. He was talking to another guy that I was playing with, and I was like, "Did you just say you were in Munich for a couple of days?" And he was like, "Yeah, I went to Munich I flew in, I guess, to Munich, or maybe to Heathrow, I'm not sure." And he did like a market tour for a couple of days, and then
I think he was there 24 hours. I was just like, man, you get it way better than I. That's how you stay married.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I have, my partners in Activate are not only super sharp and great, but they are so grounded and, such great role models for all of us, just in how to live well. And I love their faith, and I love how intentional they are about their lives. And they're really just good for me.
Two concepts I'd love to touch on, because I think this applies to, I think a lot of people know you from Cheddar's as well. Sure. Obviously, you guys are incredibly successful with your Cheddar's venture, and we can touch on that a little bit. But two concepts that I think you're incredibly uniquely good at is scale and building a team. Because all of the things that I feel like you're involved in, you'll have a concept or a idea, and you make the idea bigger. It's not just like a one-off thing. So is that, have you noticed that about yourself?
I don't know if it was the Siemens commercial or whatever when I was a kid, but it was we don't make the products you buy, we make the products you buy better. And that's always been the best. And that's kind of who we are. We are not the best at creating something from scratch. Like take Cheddar's, for example. We were the best at taking something that kind of worked and putting it in a box and creating systems in place that we could duplicate it and do it almost the same way. But also from a perspective of just a culture, like where we made it fun for everybody, but we could get to where everybody buying in to like what we're doing, and getting people to take ownership in it. And we do that really well. We really do well with hiring well and treating folks as a family and becoming a family. And man, they carry us far, and they have. That's what we did with Cheddar's. We started small with 1, and we ended up with 46 with 7,000 employees. And they would all run through a wall for my father. I think they would run through a wall for myself and Steve Pottinger. But I'd credit Steve Pottinger probably as the person who really excelled and taught us all how to create systems in place. And that means everything. There's a way to do things. You're not just kind of flying by the seat of your pants every day at 8 a.m. There's a time to show up. There's a box to check for this, and this. There's a way of doing things precisely and making sure it gets done, and accountability and all that.
Yeah.
And we're good at that. We're good at that and growing and like you said, our team members and investing in them.
Craftsman Contractors is Central Kentucky's one-stop shop for roofing, windows, siding, and gutters. CraftsmanContractors.com/contact us will get you straight to the form you need so that their team will get in touch about your project. Or just text Steven at 859-246-0108. When they finish your project of windows, siding, gutters, or roofing, you'll see what they mean when they say we build with integrity.
So just to reiterate for people, we've picked up a few listeners since a few years ago when we had Phil on. Can you give a little bit of a recap of the deal structure, of the history on Cheddar's, and how that has maybe funded some of the ventures that you are in now? Sure. And then that way we can talk a little bit more about what you guys are doing today.
Well, You could make a movie or have 100 episodes of my father, and I know you all had him on, but his story was just remarkable. I mean, true Horatio Alger, got hitchhiked in here and played football for UK. And I mean, I'd love to have another episode just talking about his life again. But he was a school teacher making $5,000 a year, and somehow there's 17 other jobs. He's driving trucks all night long. And I mean, I remember as a kid sleeping in the back of the truck with him because people were stealing lumber out of the back of the truck. And there's this very particular story where I remember the guys were unloading the truck in the yard one night, and my head pops up, and Dad gets out of the truck, and they look at me and they look at him, and he just said, "I hope you all make the wrong move. Yeah. Put every single piece back," and they did. And so he just did so many things, so we learned, and we were part of it, and never felt like we had a lot of money, but he always figured out a way to make it work, and started building houses on the side and so forth. So we did well. He did well. We did well, but it was Cheddar's really in 95, 96. And I'm sure he talked about how we got into that, but that was through a teammate of mine on a baseball team, and his father went to work for Cheddar's, and Dad went to see it, and the founder of Cheddar's and him really just hit it off, and philosophically we're very like-minded on real estate and value and food and just giving people more than they expected, and walking out of there thinking, hey, we just stole from you all. Mm-hmm. And but I came home after the VC venture, and Dad and I started doing real estate projects. We had 2 Cheddars at the time, and we had just opened the second one in Kingsport, Tennessee, and it had a really good opening. It was doing well, and Dad said, I think we're figuring this thing out. Why don't you go down there and learn this business? And I grew up around restaurants like Fazoli's and Shoney's, but I just had little menial jobs, and so it's probably the most humbling experience of my life was leaving Wall Street in VC and going to spend 6 months in a kitchen in Cheddar's in Kingsport, Tennessee. But it was the best decision I ever made. Being in the dish pit for a couple of weeks, and the fryer and the grill, but I learned the business, got the respect of other folks that ended up being key players in the organization as we grew it. And man, we figured it out. And Kingsport launched into kind of a major success. I helped him open Johnson City Cheddar's and Kingsport Cheddar's, and the Louisville, Kentucky Cheddar's. And we opened those 2. We doubled in size. And in 3 weeks, we opened 2 more Cheddar's and doubled from 2 to 4, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that is crazy.
It is
crazy when you even try to do that. And then I became partner. So Steve Podger was always part of the partner in it, and then Dad and I became kind of equal partners from that on. And I really helped with the growth and the real estate selection, and the cultural leader of the company, running the retreats and the meetings and visiting constantly on the road, driving 120, 150,000 miles a year on the road, just never stop.
Yeah.
And we built something special. We were the highest volume casual dining restaurant in the country. We did more sales per square foot than Walmart. It was an amazing success story. It was a great model, but we led corporate. Our units were not only more profitable, but they were much higher in sales, and we had a culture that was just almost unthinkable to be able to duplicate.
Yeah. And then so taking that, obviously you all exited, sold back to corporate.
So. Yeah, we have that deal was amazing to talk about.
You got a little piece back of the venture cap, of your Wall Street deal structuring.
This is Wall Street. This exactly was Wall Street in my experience there. But I knew things were changing with Cheddar's, and they had a leadership change at the top years before. It was just, Cheddar's was always so great because the founders were like raw. We were all on the same team. We were moving in the same direction, had the same goals. Well, they had a CEO came in, and he was more of just spent more time holding franchisees back than he did we're all in this together. And the writing was on the wall. They were diluting some of the recipes and shrinking portions and changing the things that made it great from the scratch kitchen. And I just thought it was time to maybe consider, while we could, exiting. And so, to do that, corporate Cheddar's had a right of first refusal on the business, and to do that, drummed up a lot of interest in our business, and using kind of investment banker friends and from my prior life, which we did, and they started putting the word on the street, and we got. Actually, it's funny. Eric Holm, who's a huge operator of Golden Corrals, and I love this man down in Florida, in Orlando. He's done Krispy Kremes, very successful. He's really good friends with John Morgan from Morgan & Morgan. And the two of them together pitched the first offer for our business. And conversations went on and on and on, which is a great story with John Morgan. My father, I should share it at some point, but that led to the partnership with Capital Spring out of Nashville, and they had a formal offer came in, and which was great. And so Cheddar's had to exercise it, apples for apples, and they wanted, which we were all surprised when they did, honestly, because they had a lot of growth themselves and a lot of growing pains. The interesting thing about that is Cheddar's wanted a few things that were not in the deal with Capital Spring. And in order to keep it apples to apples, we say, okay, that's fine, but we have to negotiate a few other things. Otherwise, Capital Spring would have a legal right to come back into the deal. And they wanted a few things that were not a big deal to us, and I wanted the rent bumped up significantly. And we did. We increased the rent about $4 million at the last minute, and got the leases to 20-year leases. Wow. That was a $72 million increase in value in that one change. Wow. The last minute, and we got them tied in, so they had to execute. Had we not done it that way, then I believe at that time, the way things were, the deal may never have closed. They would have kept renegotiating the price down, but they couldn't because they had to honor the original agreement, and that ended up what I thought was one of our biggest disadvantages, being a franchisee and having a franchisor that has a right of first refusal, which is very hard to get someone else to make an offer, ended up being our blessing. Yeah. And ended up getting the deal done. So we did the business deal. It was a little over $200 million for the business, and then we sold the real estate as a package because the rents were so high for significantly more than that. So so another $300-400 million in real estate. We had a lot of debt on that.
Yeah.
But that was it was fun to get to use some of the old New York skill set.
One just part that I have to say, I'd be terrified if the guy from Morgan & Morgan wrote me an offer. I'd be terrified to negotiate against that guy.
So that's the story. It's so funny. My dad, being dad only, I guess I can tell the story. But he's like, man, there's just one thing we need to discuss before we go any further. My wife will not let me do this deal with you. She just can't stand the commercial. She can't get over it. She doesn't want. He goes, oh, I tell you put her on the phone with me, and we'll get this thing. He's like, man, I don't know, John. I think it's harder. He goes, I'll fire up the jet, and I'll be right up there. And I tell you, her and I are gonna be best friends by the time we get done with it. And he said, I'll even promise you one more thing. If you ever get a letter or a lawsuit from any of our affiliates, I'll gotta give you a letter that makes it all go away. Like that. He goes, deal. So John ended up being a part of the final deal with Capital Spring, but I always thought that was, could you think of anything better than a letter from John Morgan that says, hey, I get out of jail free card?
Oh my gosh.
So that was, never happened, but it was kind of a fun conversation.
That's hilarious. All right. So that, y'all's exit now has funded, or at least got you on the road to be able to have a little bit more flexibility in how you spent your time.
Well, it funded a lot of great things for Lexington. I funded City Center.
Yeah.
That deal was 3 days away from going away with all the incentives for the garage and everything. And as you may remember, I think time had run out with the administration here locally had said, hey, we're not going to renew these incentives. And so we had a little bit of that real estate sale. We had some 1031 money that we could put into defer some taxes, and we're able to help close on the land and the transaction to get City Center built. Yeah, that's great. I feel great. That's better than maybe a hole in downtowns to this day. Who knows what? I don't think it would still be that way, but it certainly would look different. And I think it would not have brought the economic impact that the two hotels and the Jeff Ruby's, which is a star in the city, and the offices are 100% occupied, and everything's doing great. So the Webbs had a great vision for that, and I'm glad that we could help kind of get that across the goal line. Yeah. But again, it doesn't happen without Dudley Webb and his vision for it, and his work and his perseverance. and all that he did. But you know, it required us to.
The right partner can make or break your development project. That's why Bowman's integrated services, from landscape architecture to planning and engineering, are trusted by the region's top developers. With deep roots in Lexington and the backing of a national network, Bowman has helped shape some of Central Kentucky's most iconic projects. They know the land, the process, and what it takes to get things built. Ready to move forward with confidence? Call William Hodges, regional leader, at 859-309-6501. City Center. I would love to talk about kind of the, obviously friends with Gordy. You all have now the real estate component to your business where you're, going and buying real estate. Obviously sounds fun entertainment. What other things is Greer Companies involved in?
Yeah, so I mean,
also White Oak Commercial Real Estate.
Yeah, well, White Oak Commercial Real Estate, Gordy is a partner. We, Dad and I are partners with Gordy, and Gordy's kind of the managing partner. And back when we first started doing breakouts with Jeremiah and Bryce and Evan and Jason, we were blowing and going. We were everywhere there was Top Golf. We were trying to, beat our high score and put a breakout next to it, and try every donut shop in town. Jeremiah made us do, but we got to the point where, man, it was unsustainable for all the real estate I was doing with Cheddars and things I was trying to get involved in outside of Cheddars and all these breakouts. And I said, Gordy, man, I need you full time. Like, what can we do? And Gordy turned me down 3 times before I got more creative. I said, it's your firm, just it's yours. We're gonna we'll call it Gordy. And he's like, done, I'm all in. And so that's how Gordy and I became partners. And so literally the single best move in at least the last 10 or 15 years I made, or best hire. I mean, Gordy is amazing human being. Love being around him, love everything he does. And he's enabled me to do a lot more in the real estate world and development. And we can talk about the package of Frisch's that we've just kind of got under contract and we're very excited about. But honestly, the Palomar Springs and the fountains of Palomar probably don't get done, or certainly not to the degree they have without Gordy Hoagland and his team at White Oak.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, so many different ways we could go with this. Am I missing something?
Yeah. So, talk through restaurant post Cheddar's, how you've put together processes, put together the way of expanding different brands, and
so we're involved. Jonathan Lundy worked with us for a long time at Coba, and then he and I together did Coeur d'Alema. So it's kind of a funny contrast. You got I won't say how much, but 5 times more than an excessive amount for a restaurant, an already excessive amount in Coba. And it's bigger isn't always better, and this we were very proud of Coba, but it was just it was just too big and had its own flaws. But you come back and you spend I think we spent less than $100,000 opening Coeur d'Alema, which probably would have fit in the bathroom at Coba, and it was immensely successful from day one. So it was making as much money a month as Coba was losing, and it's just the irony to me is hysterical. But Jonathan Lundy was and TJ Cox were instrumental in that project. And Bree, TJ's wife, we followed that up with Italics, which is downtown city center. We're very proud of. And the goal for me was to create 3 of those concepts, like an American version, an Italian version, and that Latin version in Coeur d'Alema. Find an old building in Louisville or Cincinnati or Nashville, and put them all 3 together. Shared bathrooms, so you have to experience all 3 atmospheres all night, and sidewalks outside to kind of change, like in Disney, where depending on where you are, that's how it feels. And that was a goal and vision. We haven't gotten to that level yet, and I'd love to maybe resume that at some point. But I'm very proud of Coeur d'Alema and Italics, and then we had Infinity on top of the Sky Bar, which I think has come a really long way. We were really handcuffed a little bit with Marriott on what we could do. They turned down our first version of a really cool, more tiki bar, but in a sense, very similar to what Lost Palm has done at Manchester, more of a Cuban feel, an elevated island feel. And we partnered with BHG and have done 2 Drakes, one in Danville, Kentucky, and one in Outer Loop in Louisville. And we had plans to maybe do Florida, but with the market just dynamics in general, I think both BHG and us decide, and cost of construction down there and real estate and insurance, it just maybe didn't make the most sense. So we just kind of put that on hold and kind of figuring if there's another market somewhere that makes more sense. I mean, we're both here in Lexington, so it doesn't make a lot of sense to continue developing on top of each other.
Yeah.
But we've loved being partners with those guys and doing that. And, I have something in the back of my mind with some folks from Cheddar's days that at some point down the road I would love to venture off and do again. But we're not there yet on that. And well, I am enjoying this VC stuff again. I have my own private investment company, and I've been able to invest in OpenAI and XAI and Perplexity and a lot of software and AI driven tech companies, which is exciting. So
Yeah.
I've been able to get in the private marketplace for a lot of those, and I spend a lot of my time today doing a lot of that, and as well as real estate.
Yeah. How into, I guess at this point when you're, we could talk about the frishes in particular, but how into like spreadsheets and underwriting, and like how are you actually doing from somebody that's been on Wall Street, obviously has entered and exited successful businesses. How into the weeds are you actually getting?
Oh man, it's somewhere in the middle between my dad's swag technique of, just
Yeah.
standing on the property and just sniffing the sun and seeing if it feels right, to the numbers. And I'd say my protocol is somewhere right in the middle, and the numbers have to make sense. And I can do them almost in my head now when I'm looking at a property, and kind of, you've done it long enough, if I'm paying this price, here's what I'm gonna pay, here's what I'm gonna borrow, here's what my rate's gonna be, and I know what my payment's gonna be. And I just kind of know where the market is. I know I can get done. I mean, I know the tenants for Lexington, Louisville, and this part of the world, and what's feasible. I think I have a pretty good sense for that, like what it needs to be while I'm looking at it, and that's what it ends up being. Is it a bank site? Is it a morning restaurant use? Is it a afternoon use? Traffic patterns, stoplights, access, size, real estate. Can I split it into 2 lots? Do I need to reuse the building? What can I do? What's the permitting in the town like? Am I gonna is it gonna be successful? Is it gonna be a 2-year process or a 6-month process? That just comes from experience.
Yeah.
That's just something I didn't know 20 or 30 years ago, and you get a crash course in it. And that's all the concepts between Cheddar's being in 8 or 9 states, and we have hotels in 7 or 8 states, and Activate now in 25 states and worldwide. I have gotten to see a lot. I've gotten to see a lot of different communities and how they handle permitting and zoning. And that all factors into it. It has to factor in really quickly. Am I interested in the site? Can I get this done? Or is this going to be one of those Waterloos you spend years just dragging you down? And I've had sites that ones I thought would be very easy and make a lot of money. Surprisingly, they're the ones sometimes they're the hardest to get done, and they sit there vacant forever and ever. And the ones you thought, man, this is going to be a huge challenge and hard to do, get done immediately. And they're all fun stories. Every piece of real estate to me is like a child. It has its own its own characteristics, its own story, and that's been the most fun. Is all the stories from, and it's not the deal. That's what I love about real estate. It's the story behind the deal.
Yeah.
It's the people I met, the characters, how I got it done. I mean, one of them required me to dive four rows over in Cincinnati at a baseball stadium to come up and fight a child for a baseball, and hand it to a lady who was literally dressed head to toe in Cleveland Indians gear all the way down to the stirrups. And she cried. And a piece of real estate they would absolutely never sell to anyone under any circumstances. We were the first ones they ever sold to.
Wow.
Yeah. I think that kid's still mad at me. I know his dad is.
Something you touched on there. I think what's interesting for you is, I guess as an operator, I've heard many a times we have, a business brokerage firm within SVN or within our office. Here's a couple of guest business advisors. The real estate returns and business returns look drastically different. A lot of people that start getting into the M&A and just business acquisition and starting businesses realize very quickly that the day one returns for a business can be much, much higher than day one returns for buying a piece of real estate. Obviously, you guys break that mold and have been opportunistic on buying real estate like the Frisch's portfolio or some of the different things that you guys have invested in. Why is it that you feel like you continue to resonate with real estate? Like, obviously you could completely dump the real estate thing and not have been interested in Frisch's at all, and said, I'm going to go all in on AI tech, be in this new tech boom, this new AI boom, but you're continuing to be opportunistic on deals like Frisch's at hard corners and red lights and things like that. Why are you continuing to invest in real estate?
This is a great conversation, and I spend a lot of time thinking about it. Like, why would I continue beating my head against the wall on some of these things, maybe 7, 8, 10% return when we're able to do some things at extraordinary returns. I think number one reason I love it, and I think we're really, really good at it. But to account for what you're saying, we do. Like, I doubt I'll want to do, at least in this region, any more large shopping centers anymore, just because of the lack of return and the headache in the process. The hurdles are almost getting too high to jump from a permitting and zoning standpoint for what's economically feasible to get done with what tenants want, what tenants will do. And the kind of tenants that Lexington wants, they want a certain type of layout, and that's just getting harder to get approved in Lexington or in this region. So I think that I've culled what kind of development I would do, what kind of real estate deals I would do. And the Frisch's deal we've alluded to is a portfolio deal. And the beauty of that is I was able to negotiate a price that was a lot lower than if I had bought one of them or bought them individually. And what that allows you to do is get a little bit more creative and have a little more fun with the redevelopment. Use the building existing, split into two users, use more local users that maybe don't have the credit as a national tenant, but are better for the community. Local restaurant, creative types. It also allows you to just take your time and not be in a rush. But also there's the options like, hey, and I like to be a good steward of the community, and I want to keep these properties and do a great job with the landscaping and make the neighbors proud and just kind of control the future of those, and leave that legacy for my family and my kids. But there's always the challenge whether or not, hey, I could flip these things and make twice my money in one day in 6 months and have a 200% return. That probably from a Wall Street mind would be like absolutely the way to go. But I also happen to have done this and know that creating long-term sustainable wealth through real estate is a smart strategy too. Like we were joking before the interview that cash has a way of disappearing, and that is true. It might be spent on something not as wise, or and so to have that longevity and those cash flow streams that can be the foundation of our company and allow us to use some of that cash as it comes in to do riskier things or other investments, I think is a wise approach for us. Yeah. And I think we've always treated real estate as the backbone of everything we do. Not necessarily the sex appeal and the sexiest thing or the most fun thing, but it's our foundation, and it's a strong, wide foundation, and it has allowed us. That's what's allowed us to get into to sounds fun entertainment and activate and partner with those guys and do some really amazing things. It's given us the opportunity to do some of these other fun projects that are not real estate based.
DevelopLex is also sponsored by Community Trust Bank. Hi there, this is Cam Dacey, Commercial Loan Officer at Community Trust Bank and avid DevelopLex and Middle Tech podcast listener. Community Trust offers a wide variety of home loans, commercial loans, and small business loans to suit your financial needs, as well as mobile banking, internet banking, and bill pay. Their friendly and professional staff would love to assist you at one of their 6 Lexington locations. Community Trust Bank is committed to building communities built on trust. Member FDIC, equal housing lender, subject to credit approval.
It's kind of the real estate piece has kind of been like the stability for you all. Yeah. Like it's bringing the monthly kind of stable return, provided that you buy safe real estate deals that aren't maybe homers every time, but if you can get a single and a double that keep the lights on, that give you the ability to fund other things. Bag full of singles. Just get it, put it. Dad always said to get a deal done, put it in the hopper, forget about it, pay it off. You pay it off. You pay a bag of singles off, and the banks will lend on it. You got a massive asset there, and they're more flexible. If one goes vacant on you on a single tenant out parcel, not as big a deal as if a whole shopping center goes vacant it goes dark on you because the cheese has moved.
So usually when and I love about our 150 to 200 pieces of real estate that are 80% single tenant out parcels is they're not all going to go out on you at the same time. We're going to have one here and we'll get a deal done, and we got 6 months to a year to find a replacement, and then something else will go vacant and you take care of that. But some of these large projects, these large tenants, these big boxes, if they move out on you, you got a bigger problem, and it's a harder one to solve. So I do love that about the real estate is it's more nimble and flexible and easier to manage.
Pulling back to Lexington, what do you see the future that other people may not see of Lexington? If you had an X-ray vision and you say, 15 years out, we need to be doing this or we don't need to be doing that.
Lexington's a great place. I can't really pinpoint if it's in my lifetime. I think it's going to get better and better. But Lexington it's going to be a very unique town long term. I mean, you see a lot of towns like Nashville blew up over the last 2 decades. Relatively small town. You see Austin, Texas, which I think I've heard was the same size as Lexington, Kentucky in 1978 when IBM chose the printer division. We got Lexmark, and they chose computer chips and Austin. And you've seen the growth and divergence in those two cities. But that's happening all over America, where small, mid-sized towns, Greenville, South Carolina, Asheville, and they're exploding. And I think Lexington will have that opportunity, and what kind of size city we want to be and how we manage that is up to us. But it's got the assets. I mean, you talk about the horse farms, the beauty of it, the education, the people, the University of Kentucky, the healthcare industry, the service industry here. It's a beautiful town. It's a safe town. It's a great state, and so we're going to be poised to be one of those cities with all the opportunity in the world to have people move here. And what do we want to be? Do we want to grow up and not out? We've talked about it, but I think what happens there is leadership and policies in place that actually get into effect that are a direct derivative of our intentional policy, and we have to get that done. I think we kind of just like a feather that floats in the air and doesn't know what it wants to be. And we talk about things, but then we don't put policies in place or have the leadership to drive it there. And that'll happen in time. There'll be the right person come along that really can kind of take the consensus of this town and take the heartbeat of this town and drives us policy-wise to a place I think we're excited about and manages that growth.
How would you like, as we kind of round out, looking 10 years from now? Obviously, we just touched on Lexington, Greer Companies in particular. Where would you like to be spending your time? How would you like Greer Companies to interact with Lexington or Kentucky, or where would you like the company to be? That can go to Sounds Fun as well. Where would you like to see your time being spent?
Sure.
And, your team's time being spent?
Great question. Okay, we'll always be a real estate company. So I'd like to have a large family office that is dedicated to several different areas: real estate, investment, continue to being the backbone, the foundation, and provides a lot of that stability. I'd like to be spend 20% of my time in investments in technology and like a private equity fund mindset and investment strategy. Sounds fun. Entertainment is now in my blood, and I love the model. It's opposite of restaurants. One cool story is that when we were selling Cheddars, I deliberately was looking for something that did not have high cost of goods sold and have high labor, which is 50% of a restaurant's P&L. Got to know Bryce through church and his partners, and love what they were doing. But as soon as I kind of looked at the model of escape rooms, I was like, this is exactly what I'm looking for. Something that's got very little labor and no cost of goods sold, and loved it. The only flaw with escape rooms is once you played a room, you know all the clues, and you're very, very unlikely, unless you're trying to impress a group of 7 strangers, that you're going to play that room again. So I was like, what can we do exactly like similar to this model, but there's repeat play that your people want to play it over and over and over again. And Jeremiah's a genius at this, and I think it was Jeremiah that found Activate Games. There was one location in Winnipeg from a husband and wife who are actually visiting us this weekend to Keelan, and Adam and Megan Schmidt, who created Activate games internationally, and that was it. So like, that's exactly what I want to do. Like finding theme models like that, and intentionally. Funny that we did the breakout led to Activate, and it's just a great business model because from the standpoint of economics and P&L,
Yeah.
and investment versus return, and so that, and then I have there's a lot of charitable things and giving, and I want to help kids that have not had much of a second chance, a second chance. I want to get involved in education. I've always dreamed of being able to in-state to provide free collegiate education for every Kentuckian, and that's a dream of mine. If we start with kids in kindergarten and incentivize them to read and score well on tests, I believe we can do a situation where we can fund it annually, and that by the time they graduate high school, it would be more than enough to pay for their college.
It's awesome.
And those are things that are something I would like to spend a lot more time on.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. I think that's it. I'm trying to think of it. You're involved in so many things. I'm trying to think of anything we didn't touch, but if we deem it to be desired, we'll do a follow-up interview. But
Well, you guys are having fun here. I tell you, I'm open to just being involved here. If like application I fill on the way out. I mean, man, I know Matt Stone has as much fun as anybody doing whatever he's doing. So I just want to be a part of whatever y'all got going on here.
Well, just kind of a parting thought. I think Matt obviously is incredibly good at this. We touched on it at the beginning of the interview. We didn't talk about it a lot. I think something that you're uniquely good at is identifying talent and making them buy in on team culture. Like obviously all the concepts, all of the businesses that you guys are involved in, without a team in place, they don't happen. Whether it be Cheddars, whether it be Sounds Fun, whether it be White Oak, Greer Companies. Obviously that's not just a Lee Greer thing, but you and Phil and others, Pottinger, have been really good at identifying talent and nurturing that talent to stay and to buy in on the culture. So
Sure. I mean, we can talk about Taco Tico. I'm still very excited. We had to shrink it down to, what I was telling you earlier, get it into the box, a singular unit, get the model right, which we've done. The Taco Tico in Lexington is on fire, and it is fantastic, and we're very excited about the growth. But that comes down to the talent, Daniel Champion and Kyle Champion and Steve Pottinger and what they've done and we've done as a team, and it works. It went from not working to working, and it did it through people and investing in people and getting them excited about what they're doing and buying in. Yeah. And so I'm very excited about the future of Taco Tico. We're getting ready to find our second location.
Yeah. Well, hands on a lot of different things. Lee, thank you for your time. Thanks for what your companies do for Lexington and choosing to stay here and invest in the city.
Love Kentucky. I'll always be here. Thank you guys so much for having me.